Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. This is The Real Impact, series of programs where we take a look at the stories within the pages of Dennis Henson's latest work, Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And Dennis, welcome back. It's our last program for February where we're focusing on Abraham Lincoln. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being with us again. This is, as we've said many times, this is a lot of fun.
It is. Thank you so much for having me, Richard.
Absolutely. We're going to dive right in, and we've been talking about his life and times, as it were. Now we're going to dive into the election of 1860.
The election of 1860. Here are a few of the myriad obstacles between Abraham Lincoln and the presidency. After the convention's shenanigans, many Republicans were upset with the outcome, meaning a split in the party wasn't only possible but quite likely. Lincoln's views were polarizing, and the voters either loved or hated him. The country was extremely divided on the issue, and the vast majority didn't believe Lincoln had the answer. Most newspapers did not support him and allowed his opponents to paint him as inexperienced. Since he wasn't photogenic, their cartoonist had a field day with his looks. Abe's likely competition, the Honorable Stephen Douglas, had soundly defeated him in the Illinois Senate race only 2 years earlier. Adding to their concerns, a third party emerged, the Constitutional Union Party. Their views were similar to the Republicans and would most certainly peel away crucial votes. Yet by far Abe's worst problem was that 10 out of 34 states wouldn't even allow his name on their ballots. So Lincoln's chances were not only slim, they were so bad it would take a miracle for him to emerge with a victory. Yet Lincoln and his party had no way of knowing that the Democratic Party was in shambles. They should have been the party of unity. However, they were deeply divided. The Southern Democrats walked out of the first convention, and the convention ended without a nominee. With such confusion among the ranks, it was unclear if the Democrats would even have a candidate for the 1860 election. 2 months later, they made another attempt, but the Southerners again left in disgust. The delegates who remained named Douglas as their candidate. When the South learned of this, they formed another party, the Southern Democrat Party. That new party voted to have John Breckinridge as their candidate. So with the Democrats split in two, 4 parties offered their nominees to the electorate: the Republicans, the Constitutional Union Party, the Southern Democrats, and the Democrat Party. These changes resulted in Lincoln's miracle. When the Americans voted for President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln won in a landslide. Douglas only received 12 electoral votes, not nearly enough to offer Lincoln a serious challenge. The Southern ballots were split between Breckinridge with 72 and Bell with 39. So with 180 electoral votes, Abraham Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States. Which brings us back to the story's original question. What transformed the son of illiterate parents from the backwoods of Kentucky into one of the world's greatest orators? And how did that poor farm boy with almost no schooling become the President of the United States? How is it that Lincoln's speeches have been renowned as some of the most eloquent in the history of the world, considering he had less than the equivalent of a first-grade education? What circumstances prove his rise to power with prominence? Answers? As for answers to those questions, Lincoln, the teenager, said it best. The things I want to know are in books. Was it providence, or was Lincoln just lucky? I'll let you decide, but looking at his life in its entirety, few would consider him lucky.
And, we've said this before on this program, the more things change, the more they stay the same. What was said about Lincoln and his election in 1860 is similar to a couple of elections we have had in the last 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
Do you find that that's kind of the way that our system, I don't know if it's set up that way, but it just functions that way, where it's like a pendulum?
It is. It is. It speaks a lot for the wisdom of the founders. They set up a system that just goes to the edge and then it comes back and it'll go to the edge on the other side, but it always rights itself. It's almost like a boat that is propelling itself, or a plane that's on autopilot, that it just never quite, leaves the boundaries. It always kind of stays in the middle, which is pretty amazing.
And I suppose it is. And at the same time, I know there are people who, observing the system and the pendulum swinging, get a little concerned that we aren't making the kind of progress you think we would have made after 230 years. But again, I guess that's more of a judgment than anything else. It's, but it is an observation I know some have talked about, that it's like, if we could only work together. I mean, we can have the two parties, and we've had those bipartisan conversations and bills passed and so on and so forth. But sadly, right now, of course, in our day and time, there's not as much cohesiveness. But again, as you've iterated, that'll swing back the other way as well.
If we could just get rid of those darn politicians. uh, Unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with them. That's the way it's set up, and no one else on earth has been able to figure out a better way. So I guess we should be happy with what we got.
Exactly. I was also checking too to find out, because I was certainly curious about the Democratic Party, and of course, in terms of looking at that from the standpoint of when the Democratic Party and the Republican Party started. I actually have two different dates here, but obviously some different things were going on. One was 1828. With I guess it was Van Buren, I think it was, and obviously the Republican Party here in 1860. This was sort of the founding, or the fledgling years, if you will. But then there was another mention following the Civil War, the Southern Democrats and so forth. And so, I guess it just depends upon where you start that, because the same question is asked. So, what was the real birthday of the United States? Was it really July 4th? Because apparently not everybody, I don't believe, had signed the Declaration of Independence. I mean, that's just what I've heard. And was it when it was ratified by the 13 colonies? And so there's moderate or little debate over that question. But still, it's interesting to look at the different milestones that this country has had. Rather remarkable, as you've said.
There's several dates that could have been chosen, but I think they decided we need to come up with one specific date so that we can celebrate the country's birthday, and that's where they came up with July the 4th. The country wasn't born overnight. It wasn't an instant birth.
Yeah.
And a lot of different things happened. There were big swings one way or the other, but the way that it ended up is, I think it was pretty positive.
It is pretty remarkable too how long it has indeed endured. There are questions that I've often raised, specifically when talking about the conversations regarding happiness, and wondering, did the founding fathers know something? And what did they know? Where did they get that curiosity that had them put into that? One of the inalienable rights was the pursuit of happiness. I'm fascinated by it. Now, I have no problem with it. It's just a curiosity, because when you think about one of the the other two, life, that's kind of, self-explanatory, and liberty. Not so much. There you do have to describe that a little bit, which is what they were looking for. Liberty, obviously from King George, way back when. So
exactly.
Yeah, folks, you are listening to the Real Impact Daily, the Daily Inspirations conversation we're having here with Dennis Henson, the author thereof, here on Tell Me Your Story. I want to remind you, you can go to realimpactbook.com and scroll down to the bottom. where it references a podcast, and you click on that link there. It'll take you to another window that has you put your email address, and you can get yourself a free ebook copy of the Real Impact Daily Inspirations. You can also purchase a hardcover, paperback, or Kindle version, unless, of course, you have unlimited Kindle, in which case you've already got it. It's yours free through that process because you're obviously paying for the ultimate Kindle. And that's a wonderful thing. And there's also a project that Dennis has. Dennis, I'm going to have you describe that in order to get this book out to as many people as is possible. Tell us about that project.
Well, on realimpactbook.com, on the left-hand side, there's links, and one of those says Help the Children, our charity. And you just click on that. There's a GoFundMe program. You can put in as little as $1 or as much as 100,000, how much ever you can afford. But the entire amount of your donation goes toward the purchase of the books and the research for finding where they're needed. It's not like many charitable organizations, so that only a small percentage of your money actually goes to the charity. All of this goes. I want to help as many people as we possibly can by getting the word out. And if you go and get the book, get the free book, you won't be put on any mailing list unless you choose to be notified when other books come out. You can click on that, but you have to click on it before you'll be notified. The book is absolutely free with no strings. And if you read it and you think it will help people, then donate a few dollars and help the children. It's for continuing education and child literacy. That's
absolutely. Well, we certainly hope people will go to your website. Again, realimpactbook.com will be linked as well, and find out more. If we're going to find out more about Abraham Lincoln as we continue here on the Real Impact edition of Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Dennis Henson, author of Real Impact Daily Inspirations, and he's put together 30 or 40 different stories, a bunch of quotes, and as well as poems. We'll get into that later on. But we're right now talking, of course, about Abraham Lincoln. This is the month of his birth, February. So we certainly hope that you're celebrating in some fashion. Maybe go buy a top hat or something, or grow a beard, for those of you who can. We're going to go into the next little segment here, Dennis, that we want to talk to you about as we continue here. It's called this particular segment of his story, which brings us back to the original question as far as the conversations with about Abraham Lincoln. And so here is this segment on Abraham Lincoln.
What are the chances? What are the chances that a young boy's illiterate mother would take ill and die, leaving the door open for a stepmother who would see he received an education? What are the chances that a woman would accept a pitiful proposal from a man she had not seen in several years? What are the chances a young boy with less than 1 year of school would learn to read and make reading a habit? What are the chances on an 800-mile voyage a flatboat would become stranded precisely on the shore of a town with a debate club? What are the chances a friend would offer him a fully stocked general store entirely on credit? What are the chances a farmer would sell him an old barrel containing a complete set of Blackstone commentaries? What are the chances a prominent attorney would make a complete law library available to him? What are the chances the top law firm in Illinois would offer a partnership to an inexperienced rookie? What are the chances a railroad would pay an astronomical sum for winning a single case? What are the chances a sitting United States senator would agree to debate a no-name lightweight? What are the chances the city of Chicago would embrace a simple rail splitter? What are the chances the powers in Chicago would rig the convention to ensure Honest Abe's nomination? And what are the chances the Democrats would split in two, leaving a path for a virtually unknown to walk away with the presidency?
A couple of things there. We can talk about what are the chances that you and I would be here talking about this man after, what is it, 140 years when after he was elected president. But I also, there's a joke. Stan Freberg did this bit with Columbus, and one of the lines, because the word that was used in this list of what are the chances had to do with rigging. And King Ferdinand is on the boat with Columbus, and talking about, well, I'll just climb up into the rigging here. To which the king says, "You mean on top of everything else, this ship is rigged?" Well, that seems to be the case, the accusation over the last couple of centuries with our process. A lot of people feel that the system is rigged. And yet here we have proof in 1860 that the powers that be did that. And I obviously, without the internet, without all of the modern conveniences, they got away with it. And I just wonder, in spite of that, we persevere as a country. Again, what you said earlier, it is remarkable that we are where we are today as a country. We're still a country. We're still going through the protocols laid out in the Constitution.
That's true. The chances that we'd even know the name Lincoln are pretty much zero. When you take all of those things, well, each one of them, the chances were like 1 in a million, 1 in 500,000, 1 in a trillion. I mean, any one of those things would have derailed his ascent to the presidency. And had he not ascended, we wouldn't know his name. He would just have been another attorney from Illinois, or even wouldn't even have been that if some of those things had not taken place. So that's why I named it Providence. That's why the story's named Providence, because if you really look into it, it looks like there was more going on there than just luck.
Hmm. What you have a list of books, both a list of books you find inspiring, you pass on to us, but also you have a bibliography for each of the chapters, the stories that are referenced here. If one wanted to find out more about Abraham Lincoln, where would you recommend that they go? What maybe the first or second choice or source material that you'd want to have them consider?
If you want to find out more about Lincoln, there's not a person on the face of the earth that's easier to find out about than Abraham Lincoln. There's been, tens of thousands of books. When I was writing this, doing the research, there had been 16,000 books that were known. And just think how many were not even known about. And now it's closer to 19,000. And the truth is, there's probably 30 to 50,000 books, because many, many, many books, as you well know, you're an author and I am, many books go unnoticed. Most books go unnoticed. But the ones that actually matter, that have been read, they're so easy to find, and it's easy to find stories. You can pick any piece of Lincoln's life and go to Google or YouTube and just read and listen. You can find out pretty much anything that you want. The research for this was not difficult at all. It was, the harder part was what am I going to leave out? Because there was a lot more I could have put in.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't want the tome to be too thick. You don't want to go after War and Peace, which by the way, I have not read yet. But the title seems to be pretty self-explanatory. But there are a lot of great classic writings by authors who have put this together. And I think that there are other people that you're going to reference in, if not this book, other books, even the gentleman who actually lost to Lincoln in the 1860 election. He was a remarkable man in his own right as well. We won't get into that right now, but suffice it to say, he's not going to be long forgotten either,
I agree.
because he kind of made the way for Lincoln in respect to the debates that they held, obviously the election and so on and so forth. And many people have a great deal of respect for Douglas. So very very interesting conversation. Hey, let's take a quick break here. We're going to continue on. We're talking with Dennis Henson, author of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration book, and we're going to finish up with the story of Abraham Lincoln here in just a moment. But I want to remind you, you can go to realimpactbook.com, get your free ebook copy, as well as purchase a copy in hardcover, paperback, or Kindle, unless you have unlimited Kindle, in which case you already can access it for free. We certainly hope that you will, and hope you will stay with us here on Tell Me Your Story. It's the Real Impact series here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it is a genuine pleasure. I met this gentleman a scant 4 months ago. Found out about his book through one of the publishing companies or PR firms that I deal with, and we have become good friends through this series of programs, or at the very least, fine acquaintances who have an affinity for wanting to inspire people and encourage people to do more with their lives. And it is possible. You can accomplish so much when you have a resource such as Real Impact. And Dennis, I want you to reiterate for our listeners the importance of a daily task, if you will, or practice. We'll call it a practice, a daily practice that can really make all the difference in the world. Share that with us, will you?
Sure. Forming the habit of reading something positive every day that will lead you toward your ultimate goal is a powerful law of nature, similar to inertia, magnetism, the tides of the sea, the power of the winds. It's a power that's unseen, but if you use it to its fullest extent, you can do anything. You can move mountains, you can do the space program. Look what Elon Musk has done in just a very short time. And I can assure you, it's using this program. It's doing something every single day, learning something every single day. And it's not, you don't just read. You listen, you talk with people, but the reading keeps you focused. It reminds you every day of what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. So in the front of the book, it says, here's the magic formula. Well, you can't do the magic formula unless you know where you want to go. It's like getting in a ship and saying, okay, Captain, I'm ready to go. Well, the captain's going to say, where? I mean, you have to know where you want to go before that mighty ship's going to go out there and fight the waves and take you to your destination. I used to teach my real estate investor students that would come in, and I'd say, well, let's just plan a trip. Help me plan a trip. They'd look at me and I'd say, well, tell me, go ahead and plan it. Then they would ask me, well, where do you want to go? And I'd say, okay, so you've learned the lesson. The lesson is you first have to know what you want. So then we would sit down and plan how many properties they wanted to purchase and where they wanted to purchase, because once they knew what they wanted, then we could plan all the other things. So if you wanted to plan a trip to Rome, Italy, then you could get plane tickets and schedules and hotels and things to do. But until you identify that destination, you're just kind of a floating piece of driftwood, which is what Lincoln called himself. He didn't know what he wanted.
Yeah.
But he found out when he went into a courtroom and started watching trials. Mm-hmm. He looked around and he thought, I'm at home. This is me. This is what I want, and I'll do anything to get it. Now, he was illiterate. He didn't speak well. he had to finish college. He had to pass the bar. A lot of people would have just thought, man, it'd be nice to do this, but I don't have the money. I don't have the education. I don't have the friends. I don't have people talk themselves out of their real destiny.
Yeah.
Everybody's given desires, but what they don't realize is that they're gifts. They think, wow, yeah, it would have been great to go to do that. And they talk themselves out of it. They say, oh, but yes, but I can't leave my family. I don't have the money. I don't, I don't have the looks. I don't have the education. I mean, they talk themselves out of their purpose of being here.
Mm-hmm.
When if they would look at it differently and say, well, when I get these desires, they're gifts, and I wouldn't have been given the gift had the pathway not already been open.
Yeah.
They just don't know it's open. But that's where faith comes in. If you can accept and believe, you can achieve literally anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I was talking with a gentleman just the other day. He's very versed in quantum physics and so forth. And he says there is no limit to our power. You could compare it to, if you wanted to compare it to the atomic age and so forth, it's not 10 times, it's not 100 times, it's unlimited. How powerful do you want to be? And what do you, but again, it goes back to that first question, where do you want to go? I love that cute little phrase that says, well, I don't know where we're going, but we're making good time. Well, okay, great. You're making good time, but what's the point of the trip? And that's really what you're saying. And we certainly hope that people will take that to heart and make a plan and make a set a goal. Decide what you want to do. It's where my book, Choices, comes in, where the first thing you have to do is make a choice. You've got to decide what you want, because all of the 4 other steps in that book, they mean nothing if you haven't made a choice. And Lincoln did something that a lot of people, even today, they don't do, they won't do, and that is to do the research, to get the education that does not have to be a formal education of $50,000 or $100,000 at an Ivy League school. He just grabbed books and just read them and read them and read them and read them, and he was self-educated. So it's not impossible. And I know you and we've both seen stories on television, documentaries, or those little fluff pieces they call them fluff pieces, that focus on an individual who was down and out, was on public assistance, all of this stuff, or maybe even homeless. And the next thing you know, they took advantage of an opportunity, and they were off and running. And it doesn't matter what you think of, because you mentioned him, Elon Musk. The reality is he has accomplished a lot, specifically in the space program, but also in automotive. I mean, it has changed the face of space travel, has changed the face of the automobile industry, and many other people are following him in that respect. So, you're talking about whether he intended to be a leader. He certainly is an entrepreneur, and at present he's a very successful one. And he's not alone, because there are many, many more who are like that, including yourself, Dennis. Including yourself. We're going to continue here. We're going to get back into our conversation about Abraham Lincoln in just a moment as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Just a reminder that this program, this particular series, is every Wednesday at 8 a.m. following the news here on this station, as well as on SoundCloud and iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. We're on YouTube as well, where you can actually watch the two of us have this conversation. I hope that you will elicit the book. Go to the website, realimpactbook.com. Lots of opportunities for you there. Dennis, it's one of the things that I have noticed just in the last 4 months that you and I have known each other. All right. We've been conversing. For me, the universe is not bringing to me the opportunities. The universe, and that's just the way I view it, the universe is guiding me to the opportunities, which means I got to stand up and I got to put one foot in front of the other. And I'm hoping that other folks will follow suit as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. This is the Real Impact daily inspiration series here on Tell Me Your Story with Dennis Henson, who is the author of the book Real Impact, and we certainly hope that you'll get yourself a copy of it. Dennis, we're going to jump into it is a list of books, ladies and gentlemen, but I think it's a rather impressive one. This is actually, Dennis, it just dawned on me. This is actually the third list of books that you have in your book, but this one is Abraham Lincoln's reading list, if I'm not mistaken. Here we go.
Lincoln's Reading List. The Life of Washington by Mason Locke Weems. Aesop's Fables. The Arabian Nights, compiled by Sir Richard Francis Burton. Slavery, discussed in original essays by Leonard Bacon. The History of the U.S. by George Bancroft. Editorials by Henry Ward Beecher. The Bible, compiled by King James. Commentaries on the Law, William Blackstone. The Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan. Poems by Robert Burns. Poems by Lord Byron. Don Juan by Lord Byron. The New and Complete System of Arithmetic, Nicholas Pike. Elements of Character, Mary Chandler. Speeches, Henry Clay. Robinson Crusoe, Daniel Defoe. A New Guide to the English Tongue, Thomas Dilworth. Journals and Debates of the Federal Constitution, Jonathan Elliott. Euclid's Geometry. Sociology of the South, by George Fitzhugh. History of Illinois, Thomas Ford. Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Edward Gibbon. The Theory and Practice of Surveying, Robert Gibson. Fanny, with Other Poems, Fitz Green Halleck. Poems, Oliver Wendell Holmes. Poems, Thomas Hood. Mormonism, John Hyde. Joe Miller's Book of Jess, Joe Miller. Commentaries on American Law, James Kent. Poems by William Knox. Poems by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Complete Works of Edgar Allan Poe. Lives, Plutarch. Ancient History, Charles Rollins. An Authentic Narrative of the Loss of the American Brig, James Riley. Lessons in Elocution, William Scott. Complete Works of William Shakespeare. The Life of George Washington, Mason L. Weems. Liberty, John Stuart Mill. And Analogy of Religion, Joseph Butler. When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Abraham Lincoln.
I did not know he had said that. I've only seen it on those posters with that cat hanging on for dear life with his one claw. That is truly remarkable. It really is. I have to say that he was open to pretty much any thought. I mean, the diversity of books that he was reading is it's just astounding. And I will even use the word eclectic. I mean, I love it.
Well, there wasn't a lot of availability, so he read whatever he could get.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he could get his hands on, he read it. You know, when he was a boy, he bragged that there wasn't a book within 50 miles of any direction. So he would visit neighbors that he'd never even met before just to see if they had any books so that he could read them. And he would go to the nearby crossroads that were not highly traveled, but he would wait for any trapper or salesman or farmer, whoever came by. He would talk with them, and if they had any books, he was going to read the book. But a lot of the reading that he did was on the flatboats. That's why he loved to take the flatboats. On the flatboats from Illinois to New Orleans, it was just selling down the Mississippi River, which was a pretty exciting thing to do. But a lot of the time, it was just sitting on the flatboat. And the owner of the flatboat would bring lots of reading. It was more reading than he'd ever had before. Just a big stack of newspapers and magazines and books for everybody, but Lincoln read them all. And then when they got to New Orleans, they dismantled the flatboat and sold the logs and the lumber and walked back. So that was a pretty interesting trip. But once you finished your work, you got an 800-mile walk to come back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's another aspect of it too, and that is the willingness of individuals to take on the journey. Sometimes it's a long walk, but I think that it's something that we don't always think about. That I mean, you've heard the old joke about with parents, oh yeah, you don't want to go to school, and it's snowing. Well, I walked to school in the snow uphill both ways, that kind of thing. But the reality is that I know that there are many, many quotes in your book too that would address this, and that is that if it's something that you really want, that's really worthwhile, it's going to take some effort. But it depends upon how much effort you put into it as to how worthwhile it really is. Isn't that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. Anything that's really worthwhile is going to take some effort. So, but that's part of the fun. Once you decide on what you really want, have a burning desire to get there, your success is not getting there. Your success is the journey. It's the fun of reaching one stage and then the next stage and the next stage and ultimately getting there. Yeah. And I know that Bear Bryant was such a wonderful football coach, and someone asked him about his goals, and he said, well, what's he going to do when he reaches his goal? He said, well, you're not ever there because you set another goal before you finish this one. So you're always moving toward a goal. And they said, well, what's going to happen to you when you can no longer coach? And he said, well, I'll just die. So 3 weeks after he coached his last game, he died.
Wow. Yeah. And it has been said on more of a, shall we say, spiritual level that when your work is done, you go. So those of us who are still here, our work is not done. All right. There's still more work to be done. And I'm excited about that. I am very excited about whatever the work is that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm 77 years old and I still have a whole lifetime of stuff that I want to do.
Yeah.
So, it's some of the biblical characters lived for a very long time because they had such an important thing they had to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
So they just couldn't die. They had to live to go on and accomplish those things.
Yeah, it is an exciting time in which we live. It always has been and always will be, if that is the view that we take. And I hope I'm not wrong about that, but I think that it is a matter of attitude, and that's where your daily inspirations come into play. We want people to know that it is an exciting thing to be able to be excited. I mean, I could sit here and I could look at all of the negative aspects of my life, and I would spend all day doing it, because because you can do it all day long. The question is, can you look at all of the good things, be grateful for all of the good things in your life? Can you do that all day long?
Your life is like a garden. If you leave the garden unmanaged, the weeds will take it over.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to guard your life similarly than you would your garden. you can't let the negative things take over because they will. So if you don't push them away or take care of them as soon as you realize, wait a minute, that's a negative thought. I'm going to kill that ant. Any negative thought sequence, that's got to go.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
concentrate on positive things, you'll be more healthy, your blood pressure will be better, you'll be more friendly, people will like you better, you'll live longer, your heart will be stronger. I mean, there's just so much positive that can happen by eliminating the negative.
Exactly. We are going to take another pause here. We're going to come back with just a little bit more, something I think you're going to really enjoy, folks. It is an explanation, a little bit of a mystery revealed here on the Real Impact series here on Tell Me Your Story. Dennis Henson is my guest. He is my co-host, if you will. He is an author. He's the author of Real Impact, Daily Inspiration. And on the cover of the book, if you haven't been to the website, you better get there, realimpactbook.com, you're going to see on the cover of the book a lamp. All right? And Dennis is showing you that lamp right there. Well, there's a story behind that lamp, and here it is.
The mystery of the lamp. More powerful than the sun, the wind, or the tides of the seven seas, able to change the course of mighty rivers, the range of mountains, or even the paths of planets, unhindered by time, size, speed, or space. This rarely recognized force was harnessed to create the pyramids, the Great Wall, the automobile and airplane, space travel and the atom bomb, the internet, and every other major accomplishment of mankind from the beginning of time. This invisible power, though similar in nature to gravity, inertia, magnetism, and the wind, contains more potential than all of these in combination. And though it is as available as the air and sun, it continues to be overlooked by the majority of humans. Even receiving the endorsement of Albert Einstein did not spur a great awakening, and its potential continues to remain a mystery to most. Yet, without fail, those who choose to take advantage of its secret often find their lives changed forever. It is truly an enigma why this ultimate force is so often overlooked. Are you familiar with the story of Aladdin? It tells of a young man who found an old lamp. While cleaning it, he realized that it possessed supernatural powers, powers that granted his every wish and turned his dreams into reality. Yet, when he temporarily lost possession of the amulet, along with it went the magic. But when it was retrieved, its powers also returned. If you know this story, you probably consider it a fictional tale and believe it has nothing to do with reality. Yet, if that is what you assume, you're mistaken. For there is a similar talisman with powers that go far beyond those of Aladdin's lamp. And once you possess it and perform the secret ritual, your every wish may be granted, and you will be able to achieve your goals and realize your dreams. Now you're probably wondering, where can I find this amulet? And what is the secret? You've already found it. It's this book. You only need to possess it and perform the ritual. When you do, your fondest desires may be realized. But wait, this secret isn't magic. Instead, it is a powerful law of nature, similar to the effect of gravity, inertia, or magnetism. Although it is invisible, it can move mountains, change the sea's tides, and even conquer space. Just as ships at sea take advantage of the wind's power, you too can harness this powerful force to change the course of your life. Should you choose to take advantage of this knowledge, it will have a real impact on your future. When you're ready, I'll meet you inside.
And we are now inside, ladies and gentlemen. We're inside the Real Impact Daily Inspirations book. We hope you'll get a copy. And Dennis, we're just about out of time for this segment and this month and this conversation about Abraham Lincoln. I'll give you the final word on whether it's the 16th president and his life or just in general what we've been talking about. Just in the last couple of months, we've been doing this series.
Richard, I hope everyone will take advantage of getting the free ebook. And I hope that when they read it, if they're impressed with it, they'll think of other people that they can give it to and say, oh, this would change their life, or this would head them in a better direction, or help them with their sales, or help them with their attitude, or whatever. The book was written to make life better for people. And if it's used as intended, it really will. So I hope everybody will help me spread the word. And if I can help you in any way you'd ever like to get in touch with me, up at the top, it says contact us. It has my personal phone number and my email. I'm easy to get in touch with. I'll help you any way that I possibly can.
Well, we are thankful for you and what you bring us, not only in the book, Real Impact, Daily Inspiration, but in this series of programs that we are doing throughout 2025. So thank you so much for being with us again.
Thank you, Richard. It was fun.
And thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and we give you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to law. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy. Mike, I'm glad I was in your life. To my friend Doug, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.